देर से आए पर दुरुस्त आए. Okay, fine. So this is how it all looks like. We have a team, then we have a art, agile release train. Then we have a solution, which could be a solution train, and then we have a portfolio to manage the strategic themes of the organization, mapping it to the portfolio, and we talk about roles like epic owners or enterprise architect at the portfolio level. Now let's talk about requirement terminologies that SAFe uses. Now, so this is agile release train, and then if you have multiple agile release trains, we have a solution train. And let me do a little bit of a annotation so that not annotate, is it? Okay, so I have to download the extension, it seems. Let's see if it happens quickly. Okay, no worries. Otherwise, let me see if I have a marker. Okay, so at the portfolio layer, we have epics. And at the solution level, we have capabilities. At the art level, we have features. And at the team level, we have
Yes.
the stories, right? Okay, so that's how the requirements kind of looks like in the SAFe organization. So to manage the backlog at the portfolio layer, where we track all the epics, we call this as a portfolio backlog. Wherein we manage all the capabilities, we call it as solution backlog. When we manage all the features, we call it as a art backlog. It used to be called as program backlog. And here, what do you think? What backlog we say at the lowest level? What do you call this backlog as? This is not called product backlog, as is the case in Scrum. This is called team backlog. So there are some terminologies which are different from Scrum and SAFe. Okay, so that's how the organization looks like. Now, going ahead, let's talk about how does the work actually happens. So just as we have a time box in Scrum, most popular time box is 2 weeks. We do have a time box in SAFe as well. What is the time box here? Most popular 10 weeks, 5 iterations. So 2 week iteration we have and 5 iterations. Now here we have 5 teams. So we are taking an example of 5 teams. After the end of 2 weeks, we have something called as product increment, right? So there's a deliverable that comes out and we'll talk about it. So the first iteration, we have development that happens. Second iteration, development happens. Development happens in third and the fourth iteration. However, the fifth iteration is a special one. It is called innovation and planning iteration. The focus is not the development here. The focus is, okay, whatever we have done in the last 8 weeks, how can we innovate, improve our competencies, have better ideas, and also doing planning for the next 10 weeks. Okay, so this is, you can actually imagine as a quarterly planning. Yeah, for the whole quarter, the teams are inspecting and adapting and working towards a deliverable. Every 2 weeks, they have a product increment that comes out, and 8 week onwards, they come together to do innovation. understand how our deliverables are faring, what is the feedback that we are getting, and planning for the next 10 weeks. Okay, so these blue lines are nothing but this is called system demo. Now in the Scrum, we have a team level demo wherein the teams actually give the demo to the product owner. In this case, the different deliverables coming out from 5 teams are integrated and created as a system. And that's why it is called system demo. And this system demo is given to, what do you think? Okay, so think about it. We have a product management here, right? Yeah, so we have a product management, and system demo could be also an opportunity to release to the customer. There is a possibility of system demo to be also released. So you see, we have 4 system demos. The last system demo is called a PI system demo. It is the final demo of the entire quarter. And this is where most of the customers come to see how our system is evolving. There are some other arts which could also be dependent on this art. They would also like to see that how this product could be consumable, and they may have their own feedback for this particular art. Let me just pause here and see if you have any questions. Are all these bouncers, you're able
Can
to
I,
understand it? Yeah, go on.
as you said, PI planning, I mean, we'll give the demos at the end of the 10th week. The last 2 weeks, we use it for the demos and the planning sessions for the next iteration, next 10 weeks. With the system demos, are we going to do it for every 2 sprints? If so, on that note, what is the each squad is giving the demo to whom? Not just the product owner of their own squad. Are they giving to the system demo as well?
Yeah, so there are 3 demos here. So first answer to your first question is yes. After every 2 weeks, we do have system demo. And if
Okay.
it is not happening, it's an empty pattern for the scaling construct. Second answer to your second question is there is a team demo which is internal to the team. The teams give to the product owner of that team. Then there is a system demo wherein the integrated deliverables from all the teams. So there is also a system team responsible for integrating all the deliverables from all the teams. Now, this system team sometimes give and present the system demo to the stakeholders. When I am the SAFe coach, I actually encourage developers to do that. I mean, in different organizations, this happens differently. However, product management needs to see whether this is a deliverable that he's expecting or she's expecting or not based on the acceptance criteria.
In continuation to that question, so we have a 2 weeks of sprint like we normally do for our Scrum teams. We do the demos and the retros in the end of the day of the sprint. And when is this, when it comes to scale, when is this integration happens between all the other squads in the 10 days of time? Is it going to be in the last day or before? Will there be
So,
any?
good question. So, one pointer towards your question is this cannot happen before the team demo, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah. So, when your sprint review happens, it can only happen after that because all the sprint reviews must have happened for all the 5 teams. And then only there is a possibility for integration. Now, system team is responsible for the integration. System team may take some time to integrate because uh, sometime the code that was working earlier is not working because of the integration. So there has to be some kind of a to and fro to make that build stable. Yeah, it could be as much as 2 weeks of lag depending upon the scenario, right? And when it is ready, then it is given a demo to the required parties.
So the system integration task also will be added to our user stories. I mean, are we adding the estimations and capacities to the code?
That is towards the system team. not
Uh,
towards developers. Yeah, right.
yeah,
Good
understood.
question. Thank you, Sumana, for asking that question. Okay, so moving on, we have 7 minutes left, and I promise that I will complete this in those 7 minutes. Um, so yeah, system demo happens, and then we have a last one as, so of course, this is the incremental development. The system demo is evolving, and the last one is definitely the one that is requiring attention from the customers, from the stakeholders. Um, and now all of this is okay. Where the bug actually starts. So if you see this first line, there is a 2-day planning for the entire art. Now this entire art could be hundreds of people. Now all of these hundreds of people come together in that planning event. This is called PI planning, or some organization it is called BRP, which is big room planning. And in this big room planning, the input given is, okay, we would like to build these top 10 features. And the output is twofold. One is um, it used to be called as program board. Now it is called art board. And the second one is team PI objectives. So for example, if team one is there, this is team one. Now this team one will take 20 stories, team PI objectives from the 2 day of PI planning, once that PI planning ends. So this team is like, okay, my team PI objective is I need to build these 20 stories, and they can possibly allocate 5 story in first sprint, 5 story in the second sprint, 5 story in the third, and 5 story in the fourth. And once I am done with my 20 stories, then I am done. And if every team is able to complete their whatever stories that they are allocated to, then by the end of the PS system demo, you would see that we have built those 10 features, right? Of course, there is an aspect of, okay, team one is dependent on team three for the second iteration for these aspects. All of that is a discussion that actually happens on that PI planning. Yeah. And this is exactly how it is visualized in the program board, in the art board. Okay. That is how the SAFe works. This is a very brief overview on how SAFe framework works. There is also Scrum at Scale. Now, Scrum at Scale is less prescriptive than SAFe. It has just a couple of events. One is called Meta Scrum, which is basically a product owner, product management organizations. They talk about scoping, requirements, prioritization, and so on. And the other meeting at the scaling level is called Executive Action Team, which is from a Scrum Master, Senior Scrum Master, Scrum of Scrum Master. So they actually talk about uh, higher level impediments that is not being resolved by the Scrum teams, the team level constructs, right? So if it is not resolved, then it kind of gets escalated to a higher level, and the executive action team is responsible to resolve those impediments. So that's how it works. And otherwise, the concept is similar to deal with scaling. There are other frameworks like Less, DAD, Nexus, but more or less they follow similar concept. Terminologies are different, but SAFe is very, very prescriptive. If the organization is not very mature, they lack discipline, then there may be certain kind of push or prescription that should be described, and that's where the SAFe works best. If the organization is mature, they are good in their Scrum practices, they are at least following agile processes and have agility in them, then I think Scrum at Scale is good enough for them. Some of the questions that could be asked in the interview for the scaling concept. By the way, anybody has any you have heard or seen in your interview any scaling questions?
No.
Okay. Oh, then I can talk about anything. Okay, so some
I
scaling.
have done my certifications.
Okay, so some scaling related questions is okay. It depends also on the role, whether you are playing a product manager role or a release train engineer role or a scrum master role. Uh, Product management role revolves around, okay, you have a big technology team implementing your requirement. Business is pushing you for another requirement that was not part of the scope. Now, how do you deal with that situation, right? For a release train engineer, possibly one of the most important question is how do you drive PI planning? Because that's a big, big event, right? How do you make sure that you are following the principles, autonomy, mastery, and purpose? How would you unlock the intrinsic motivation of knowledge workers? For Scrum Masters, there could be questions on NT patterns. Now, how will you align with the other Scrum Master? Because it's not only your team, you are actually working in the big setup, in the holistic setup, in the whole product. What are some of your responsibilities to be able to align with other Scrum Masters to address team PI objectives, to address art level objectives? So these are some questions, and the questions may vary depending on the context. So I see we are at the top of the hour. So I'll just pause for a minute and see if you have any questions at the last minute that I can address. With that, let me just take a beautiful picture of all of you with the smiling faces. Okay. Yeah, got it. Fine. Okay, so thank you for joining and welcome Sumana for the challenge. We'll see you on the other side. There's a lot that the community has to offer. So Sunita, Sairam, and Bhupender explore the community and hope it actually serves each one of your interest. Bye-bye.
Okay.
Yes.
Bye.
Nice
Bye.
meeting you all, guys.
Yeah,
Nice
bye-bye.
meeting you. All the best.
Yeah,
Yeah.
bye-bye.
Cheers. Bye.
Bye.